We've got an interesting comparison in this week's reading to something that you've read in a previous gospel. Look at Mark chapter 14 with me, beginning in verse 3. While Jesus was in Bethany at the home of Simon the leper, and reclining at the table, there came a woman with an alabaster vial, a very costly perfume of pure nard, and she broke the vial and poured it over his head. But some were indignantly remarking to one another, "Why has the perfume been wasted?" For the perfume might have been sold for a large sum, and the money could have been given to the poor, and they were scolding her. But Jesus says, "Let her alone. Why do you bother her? She's done a good deed to me. For you always have the poor with you, and whenever you wish, you can do good to them. But you do not always have me. She's done what she could. She's anointed my body beforehand for the burial. Truly I say to you, wherever the gospel is preached in the whole world, what this woman has done will also be spoken of in memory of her." Now, how can it be that the ending of Matthew, a gospel that you've read, Jesus has this promise in which he says, "I will be with you always"? How can it be true that here in Mark he says, "You do not always have me"? Do these things contradict each other? Well, this is a good point of comparison for considering Jesus's human existence. It was life on this earth just like ours, but temporary. Of course, we know about his death, burial, and resurrection, and the promise to us that one day we too enter into that eternal life. But this tension between the temporary and the eternal, things that don't last and things that do last, is heavily at play here. Even in the illustration of the perfume being, the bottle being broken. It's done, it's spilled, but there is this lasting aroma here. How can we have lives that also look like that? How in a life on this earth in which Jesus promises it's always going to be less than ideal, the poor will always be with you. There's some sort of brokenness in this existence. How then are we to have lives of meaning, lives and tasks and deeds and works that last? Well, that's the promise of this story that we see. This woman chose to associate her life, her activity with Jesus, and associate her life, her activity with the gospel. And here's the promise of Jesus. Wherever the gospel is preached in the whole world, what this woman has done will also be spoken of in memory of her. And there he's teaching us yet again, this woman's life won't last. There is a time in the future in which she will be spoken of in the past tense, what she did while she was on earth. Well, that's the promise for us. If you attach your life to the gospel, because of Jesus, he is able to give it everlasting worth. Keep reading.